It's on.
It's all set? All right. All right, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. And welcome to the City of West Covina for our Community and Senior Services Commission this 14th day of May 2019, 6 o'clock for our scheduled meeting. Our flag salute and a moment of silent prayer. The flag salute will be led by Betty Lyons. Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Stewart,
Here.
Commissioner Bennett, Commissioner Den, here. Commissioner Kaufman,
Here.
Commissioner Lewis,
Here.
Commissioner Mason,
Here.
Commissioner Molnar,
Here.
Commissioner Velez,
Present.
Commissioner Williams,
Here.
Commissioner Zaklama.
Here. All right, move on to approval of the minutes of the last meeting of March 12th. Do we have any corrections? If not, it will be approved as written. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to new business. Number 2 item, the selection of the chair of the Community and Senior Services Commission.
I'll motion to nominate Dave Stewart as chair.
I'll second.
We have a motion, and we have a second. Should we have a roll call or just raise of hands?
We can do a roll call.
Roll call? Okay, fine, thank you.
Commissioner Stewart,
Yes?
Commissioner Den,
Yes.
Kaufman,
Yes.
Commissioner Lewis,
Aye.
Commissioner Mason,
Yes.
Commissioner Molnar,
Yes.
Commissioner Velez,
Yes.
Commissioner Williams,
Aye.
Commissioner Zaklama.
Aye.
Good, thank you very much for the comments. All right, we move on to number 3. We need a selection for a vice chair for the coming year here. Do we have anybody that would like to make a motion?
Bennett has put his name in the hat, if anyone else would like to as well.
I'd like to nominate Lewis.
Okay.
Nomination for Nick Lewis. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Bill Kaufman. Have a roll call on that, please.
Commissioner Stewart,
Yes?
Commissioner Den,
Yes.
Commissioner Kaufman,
Yes.
Commissioner Lewis,
Aye.
Commissioner Mason,
Yes.
Commissioner Molnar,
Yes.
Commissioner Velez,
Aye.
Commissioner Williams,
Aye.
Commissioner Zaklama.
Yes. Yes. Aye.
Congratulations, Nick. You're now the vice chair.
Thanks.
Couldn't have to have better.
The blue shirts went out.
Appreciate it.
All right, we'll move on to number 4, which is selection of our ad hoc committee members. And Nicole, can you explain a little bit, because there's something's different here about, it doesn't actually say senior commission or like the sports council. Where are they in this group here?
So we have had, so actually these are the core ones, and the other ones, and those actually fell off, actually. I'm looking at that.
There was a motion.
Was there a motion? Okay, I'm sorry. So there was a motion to just keep those off, because at the last meeting, we discussed having anybody attend that wanted to attend as long as we weren't going to end up with a quorum, so I'm sorry. So those aren't actually listed as subcommittees anymore. So we talked, because remember in that meeting, we talked about transitioning as we had recommended on whether or not we were going to stay with subcommittees or move away from them. So we kind of met in the middle, I guess, from the staff and commissioner perspective. And so we are going to move forward with the CDBG, the capital improvement project, which I have some exciting news as we move forward to talk about Measure A, and then the homeless subcommittee. So again, looking for no more than 5 commissioners, because we don't want to create a quorum.
All right. So will 5 on each one give us everybody 2? I guess, no, it won't. Can you be on more than one of these?
You can be on more than one. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Okay. All right, well then we'll start off with the CDBG. I'm on that right now. I'd like to stay on it if possible.
I'd like to be on it also too.
I would too, if unless there's somebody else who'd like to be on it that puts us over 5, I've been on it for a number of years and I enjoy the assignment.
Bennett, I really wanted to be on that as well.
No, he doesn't have that one listed.
Oh, it's yeah,
You got one in that full?
Pardon me?
I mean, just handful?
So,
You have 4.
so far we have.
You're on. You're on.
All right.
You're questioning.
So far, I was the first one to
That's
speak
fine.
up, and Nick was.
Yeah.
Who was over here?
Betty?
Betty.
No, I did.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Carol.
Carol, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
but
3.
Offered one.
Me.
Am I correct?
So I think we got 5, right?
And,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right?
Okay,
Okay, so can we read those names again?
All right, so I think it's Williams, Mason, Stewart, Mulder, and me. Right?
that's good,
Yeah,
that's good.
that's Works.
I think just doing it all in favor, all opposed, would just work at this point, since,
Yeah.
more than half tonight.
All right.
Okay, we'll go on to B item number 4, which is the capital improvement project.
I've been on that in the past, I'd like to remain on that.
You want to add one? Okay, Phil.
What does that entail?
You've been on it, you were
Yeah,
involved
on
in
it
the
for the playground.
Oh,
How little how soon you forget, our token prize.
It wasn't called that.
Yeah, I think it was called,
It
I don't
wasn't, it wasn't called that.
yeah, I don't remember.
But
It was
I
called
enjoyed that.
Maybe it was called Playground Committee.
Yeah,
I
no,
don't know.
Well,
that
the playground was a subcommittee.
Yeah,
That was a
yeah,
subject,
right,
yeah.
right.
That-
Subcommittee
yeah,
of the
Phil.
subcommittee, right?
Yeah.
Steve Bennett would also like to throw his name in the hat for the
All right,
CIP.
that makes 3 for that then, right? Phil Kaufman,
I'll go ahead.
Gail Mason, Steve Bennett.
Okay, so we,
Betty?
Oh, yes.
Uh-huh.
All
so
right.
we have Kaufman, Bias, Mason, Bennett, and one more?
I'll do it.
Okay.
Dr. Zach, would you want to do that?
Don't quite know enough, and I don't.
Okay, that's fine.
If you want to do
hey.
it, by all means, I'll take
We'll
my
teach
hat
you.
out of the ring.
Yeah.
No, thanks.
Okay, that's right. So Nick Lewis is the 5th one then, right?
What's that?
Nick Lewis will be number 5.
Yeah, so I have Commissioner Kaufman, Bias, Mason, Bennett, and Lewis.
That's correct, okay. All right, we'll go on to C, part of that, number 4, which is the homeless committee.
Do that, Dr. Zak.
Yeah, I'd like to be on that.
All right, we gotta get Pam on one here.
Yep.
She's on that. And Phil would like to be on that.
Do you have to be a part of the committee?
No, you don't have to be part of the subcommittee. You can still be an active commissioner. not be on the- I'll help you out.
I'll go on that committee.
Okay.
Nicole?
Yes.
Is there going to be any specific assignments for this subcommittee? I know,
Oh, I'm giving you some assignments after this meeting, yeah.
Yeah.
all right, well, I mean, I'm just curious whether or not the council is actually going to be supportive of that, or if it's going to be, one of those things where it's sort of a subcommittee without a purpose. That's my only concern.
I think that obviously homelessness, as you guys know, being on this commission
Right.
and being residents of West Covina, know that homelessness is an issue.
Sure.
And I think that the council is unified in its direction in terms of trying to advocate for more funding, trying to get more resources for homeless services and programs. So, as we're moving forward and advocating for more funding, I'm going to be looking to that subcommittee to really push forward and reaching out to our supervisors, to reach out to the board of supervisors collectively, but maybe even possibly attending future meetings. Because, for example, there was a meeting today at a vote at 10 o'clock, and I sent in a comment because I couldn't be there, because I couldn't be in 2 places at once. So sometimes that's difficult. For some people that are on the commission, some of those that are retired or have flexible work schedules, that's really helpful as other cities send commissioners, council, and other staff members.
So I just heard lobbyist. That was what I heard.
That's part of it, yes.
Okay, fair enough.
Yes, with a clear, unified direction, yes.
Understood.
All right.
Where do they meet?
Anywhere we choose. So any of our subcommittees that we have, sometimes subcommittees meet off-site, sometimes they'll schedule meetings. So like tonight, when we talk about Measure A, we're going to be talking about having an ad hoc committee for the capital improvement. So we'll just get a collective date and time and figure out what we want to meet.
So you just stay within your neighborhood, am I correct?
No. For the homeless subcommittee, we'll choose a time and place to get together to talk about what we want to do and action items, and then it's kind of like then you seek out and go into the community and do what you need to do.
You have enough on there?
No, currently we only have 3. right? So-
Yeah, currently we have 3, but we don't need more, but we take up to 5.
Well,
yes.
you need someone else, though.
What did Steve Bennett say you wanted to be on?
He wants to be on.
I'm sorry, he did want to be on this
Yeah,
one as
he
well.
would.
So that's Kaufman, Din, Stewart, and Bennett. Thanks.
Anyone else want to participate?
It's okay to go to committee, subcommittee meetings or no?
Well, the reason why we have people sign up for the subcommittees is because we don't want to end up having a
Okay.
quorum with the commission. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so 4, are we satisfactory then?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
I'll do it, it's fine.
Okay, so we good.
Okay, so Kaufman, Dent, Stewart, Bennett, and Lewis.
Right.
Okay.
All right, then we need a motion and a second to approve of all the above on number 4.
Motion to approve.
Favor, a second?
Second.
All in favor, raise your hands if you do.
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Nobody? Okay, that's good. Okay, we'll move on to number 5, which is the volunteer of the year nomination selection. And we were talking before you got here, Nicole.
Okay.
We were kind of wondering about suburban entering that one category. I mean, we realized that they did a lot of different things in the city. They're well deserved to have an award, but it's more of a corporation as opposed to an individual. So we're just kind of questioning whether that's the proper way to go.
Yeah, I was also wondering, Warren James is an employee of Suburban Water. Can she basically nominate, basically, I think she's nominating herself as an employee of the company.
Yeah, I mean, it's talking about the nominee performing. I mean, we have not had a company before. And what I would say is that they do volunteer and give back. That is usually part of a corporation or organization's mission to give back to a community. They are very supportive of community events. And what I would say is that, you know, it's funny because you think you always address all of the issues that come up with this application process, and it's always a frustration from the staff's perspective that we have 110,000 residents, yet we always have to pull teeth to get nominations for these awards. In some years, you know, we've had 2 for, you know, one specific category because we don't really get enough nominations or any nominations for each category. And then you have a situation where you get somebody from outside of the city but gives a lot of time inside of the city. And so, you know, we've gone back and forth with the criteria over the years. It doesn't, I mean, the criteria lends itself to that we're talking about a nominee in an individual, not an entity. But again, that's for the commission to decide as a whole. I don't have a position either way from the city staff perspective. But in this perspective, in this respect, talking about this one company, I could name, you know, a dozen companies that truly support the community on a lot of fronts. But obviously they were nominated, so it's for this commission to decide. Yeah, well then that's another one, is that we do have Andres, but they're specifically talking about this for.
Let's go back to the first part of it, which is the community services nominee. And we have one, which is Andres Costaneda.
I think both Suburban and Andres are
They're both.
community services.
Yeah, they're both for the same.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Big difference.
I just.
What's it, has everybody read it all?
I just like a volunteer, not a corporation, I feel better with an individual.
Yeah, if you look at the information sheet, talking about Volunteer of the Year Award, this is the Community Services Volunteer of the Year Award is given to recognize persons working with lower income persons, the elderly, or persons with disabilities. Recreation Service Volunteer is given to persons volunteering in youth recreation services in our community. Nominees must have demonstrated a high level of dedication, etc. The second paragraph, the service performed by the individuals shall be voluntary. All this talks about being a person, not an entity, not a business.
Exactly.
So I would think it would be limited to an actual living human being and not a business.
I would tend to agree. I think notwithstanding the Dictionary Act, which would define persons as individuals and corporations.
Any other comments? Actually, that kind of goes along with my thought too, because I brought it up just when we came in the first time tonight, and I agree with what we're saying, that the individual is better than the business, so. Do we have any motion?
Go ahead, go ahead.
I on his Castaneda.
I'll second.
Motion by Phil Kaufman, seconded by Kim, Mike, Nick?
Nick? Yeah.
For Andre Castaneda?
He answers to a lot of
Yeah,
things.
yes.
Hey, you.
Roll call vote on that one?
Commissioner Stewart,
Yes.
Commissioner Dent,
Yes.
Commissioner Kaufman,
Yes.
Commissioner Lewis,
Aye.
Commissioner Mason,
Yes.
Commissioner Molnar,
Yes.
Commissioner Velez,
Yes.
Commissioner Williams,
Abstain.
Commissioner Zaklama,
Aye.
9-0, 1 abstaining.
Okay, all right.
May I make like a general comment on that?
Did you make sure?
So I'm more concerned, the corporation thing, I get it, but I'm more concerned that we only have two, just like what you're saying, we only have 2 nominations for the entire city. Generally speaking, this is where a good system of volunteers and a good system is in place, some sort of structure around this could cause for more recognition, more appreciation, more standing in the light. And I think that would incentivize people to volunteer. But it's something to think about for next year.
I just want to address that real quick, because I will say, you know, being on this commission for almost 10 years now, I can tell you this problem, and frankly, no matter what we've done, we've advertised it, we've talked to people about, you know, even on the public service day, nominate people, no, get no response, and that's the frustrating part about this whole thing. You know, it's one of those things where the only thing I can say is, you know, continue to reach out to people and hopefully it'll change, but, you know, it's been like this for as long as I can remember, and from what I understand, it was like that even before, so who knows? But that doesn't mean that people aren't doing good things in this community. People certainly are.
Good, thank you, Nick. I do have one question about the nomination criteria and guidelines. But after, I'm missing something here, I think. It says an individual cannot receive an award more than once, or in a 5-year period for the same award. Is that, I'm missing something there?
Again, criteria that the commission has agreed upon, and we had a discussion at length last year about this, and nothing changed from it. So if this commission would like to change the criteria, staff's open to hearing suggestions.
Yeah. Well, the first part makes a definite statement, but then the last part kind of changes it around. You know, that's what I mean. I mean, it's fine with me. I just thought this is something I read, you know.
It sounds like a mutually exclusive statement.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Anyway, if we have no objections to it, we'll just leave it like this.
I think it was 5-year period for, if memory serves me right, and again, it's been a while since we've discussed this, but I think it was someone who had won community services couldn't win recreation services within a 5-year period.
Correct.
So
And
I
you
think
couldn't
that's
win
why.
the same award. You couldn't be community services twice ever, but you couldn't be nominated, period, within 5 years.
Right,
Yeah.
that was my understanding.
So
Maybe
that
we
you
should
weren't like
just
Nick, this year you're
clarify
community
that.
services, next year you're recreation.
Right.
Right.
So maybe we should just clarify that.
Sure.
Might be a good idea. Do we need a motion to do that, change that, or can we just make it in the minutes?
You can just, take a consensus. Is anyone opposed to making that adjustment?
Yeah. Anyone opposed to doing that?
We'll make the adjustment.
It'd be unanimous.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
All right, then we move on to the recreation service award nominees. Any comments?
There's only the 2 for community services, so there's none for recreation
That's
services.
what I waited for nobody to say, so.
Yes, I know, I can't find it.
We're hiding it.
Yeah, where is it?
There's none in there.
Oh, okay, I can't find it, yeah.
Nicole's giving us a little test to see if we read all this.
Yeah.
I've got like 4 piles of paper over here. I'm testing myself.
Anyway, Dr. Zach, that's what we're talking about. We're getting very few people. You know, there's a lot of people qualified. You never see them make it on the list here.
Yeah, I think definitely people are working really hard in the city. We all see it firsthand. We're all part of it. But I think putting a structure in place might allow things to be a little bit different in the future. Any sort of structure in place. And I think we got the right minds to design a structure, propose and suggest a structure. I think putting a structure in place would really help something like this. It would also be kind of like a subtle advertisement for the good of the city. If we have a structure in place, everybody should know how good the city of West Covina is, all the volunteers.
I think it's just a matter of getting the forms, because, you know, when we have the public luncheon or something like that, and you tell people, but they don't have the forms available, and then they, you know, we're all so busy nowadays, it's like, oh, I'll do it later, and you never get to it. So if we have the forms readily available, you know, everywhere that they have access to, then they could fill it right there on the spot, instead of doing it later, because later means never.
Well, I think something that we can do, and we're moving towards this on a few fronts, so we're currently in the process of redesigning the website, city's website, which will help immensely. Going to be launching a new city app, but also doing fillable PDF online, so that you're just there and you can do it, instead of having to download the application, print it out, and take it back. And then, yes, so we do have them available at our community counters.
But whatever event we're at, we have.
Oh, sure, yeah, we can give you a bundle.
People ask me to do surveys all the time. Can you do it? Yeah, tonight, later.
And also too, during the time frame, it's there, isn't it, in the newspaper at least 1 or 2 times?
We put it as many locations as we possibly can.
Yeah.
We've done a lot of different things. We've even advertised, we've even taken bundles and thousands of flyers. And on the 4th of July event, which is our most popular day of the year with most people, we got 1, 2 back, 1 or 2 back out of 10,000 people that we handed to every person walking through. We also have our community service group that Deb does a great job of communicating with, getting that information out, and we've talked to them for 6 months now.
Yeah.
6 to 8 months on this, and these are our volunteer groups, so the website will be a good tool, and obviously we'll continue to try to get out everywhere we can, make sure they have the information.
One of the comments that we've received on the staff side is that there's other organizations that are doing their annual Volunteer of the Year. I think the Historical Society does one, maybe the Women's Club, and there's another one. And so I think that convolutes it, where it becomes saturated. And so maybe we need to stop trying to do, you know, we've done it in the past in conjunction with Volunteer Appreciation Month, which is, you know, I don't know if it's nationwide, statewide issue, and so that's something that we do in conjunction with the county's program too, and so we do our volunteer luncheon then, and so we kind of try to mirror that, and then come full circle in May and do the commission meeting and choose applicants. So maybe we just need to restructure and do it at a different time of year.
Time frame, yeah, let's just change the time frame.
Well, the new website may help a little bit too, and maybe get a little more, you know, so.
We can give it one more run and then see how it goes next year. And, you know, we can always elect that if it's not going well in May, we can just completely push it back and do it in the fall.
It's no longer tied to the fair in any way.
It's no longer tied to the fair, which was part of that too. And so, yeah, we're not really tied to any date. The only one that we're tied to is the Outstanding Older American. That has crept up and crept up. It used to be in May, now it's in April, so we have to nominate somebody, but that usually comes before the commission meeting anyway.
Just curious, is there any way that we can get a list of people who win the awards in the various groups in the city, so that maybe we can kind of put those people in the drawing, so to speak, and then pick from them?
Yeah.
I mean, it might work out better that way. At least we'll know that we have consistent nominees as a result of that.
Actually, most anything's worth a try at this point to get some more enthusiasm. Any other questions on the volunteer program? Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to number 6. This is a request from Commissioner Hoffman. Requested the commission recommend the council send a letter to both the sheriff and Supervisor Hills Police Office that includes a detailed description of the process that Chicago was doing with their county inmate release program to help elevate
So
homelessness.
Elevate?
It should be
Alleviate.
alleviated.
That's pretty small. Homelessness with their community.
Darn spell check.
Yeah.
Well, it's spelled right. It just-
Right?
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying. We both read that.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny.
You want more?
So as I described, I think at our last meeting, and as I've done at various meetings over the last year or two regarding homelessness, the Cook County Sheriff in Illinois has this immensely successful program where all county inmates go through an exit interview where counselors determine if they have a place to go to live, to sleep that night, if they have medical needs, psychiatric needs, and make sure that they're not just thrown out into the community, that they have a place to live, that they have a doctor to see, that they can get prescriptions, that they need mental health services, that they're available to them before they're released from custody. And if they have no place to home, they will provide housing outside of the jail system for at least a couple of weeks. Before the election, I had the opportunity to discuss this with Alex Villanueva, who was subsequently elected sheriff. And he thought it was a really good idea, but I've heard nothing happen since then. So that was my hope that we could put this into a letter form with, of course, the council's consent, reminding him of this program, and also having Supervisor Solis become aware of it, so that hopefully it could be something to be considered for the County of Los Angeles.
So we have any success on doing that so far?
Have we had any success, I'm sorry?
Sending a letter to Silas Lisa, have we had anything happen on it yet?
I'll have to report back to you in July on that, because we have some stuff pending. We're working on some stuff behind the scenes, so.
Okay, that's we have by next meeting.
I was just going to comment on it. I think it's a great idea. There is actually another program out there that is actually statewide in Rhode Island that actually deals with people who are formerly incarcerated, and as they're exiting, they take care of making sure that if they were formerly abusing drugs or opioids or things along those lines, that they have programs to get into upon release. And obviously the opioid and drug crisis that obviously is prevalent in the streets, I think is something that we should look to address, particularly with prisoners who are released back into the population. So I would just add that onto the Chicago program. I think they're both great.
So hopefully something we can do.
All right, any more comments? Maybe we'll have an update next meeting, something like that for you, hopefully.
Did you want to make a motion for Commissioner Kaufman to write the letter?
I'm more than willing to do that.
You want to draft a letter and just email it to me, and then I'll
Put it through spell check.
work it, put it through spell check to alleviate my
Yeah, you'll really need that spell check.
Yeah,
Wow.
so Phil, you write.
I'm never going to let that one in.
I have a question, Phil. Is this only at state level, or is it at local level also?
No, it's county, where it's being
LA
done, the program I'm aware of is county level, Cook County, Illinois, which covers Chicago, and then this other program that Nick mentioned was state level in Rhode Island. So it would be, I think it's probably overly ambitious for us to try to push through something at the state level. So that's why I think with the sending this to the sheriff and the Board of Supervisors is the best way to approach it, to try and get it done on a county level.
Perhaps they can figure out how to use Measure H funding
Well,
appropriately.
the reason I was asking, I know my wife, she goes to church, it's not too far from here, and they arrested a guy that was on their property using drugs, and he left all his stuff there, and as they were called the police again, he showed up. So obviously he was just in a local holiday, and so what do we do? You know.
So I can address that a little bit in that the difficulty that we have in our West Covina jail is that the Measure H funding does not cover jail in-reach in our jail. So the county was very specific that they're not giving that funding to city jails, they're giving it to county jail. Their rationale behind that is that the inmates don't stay long enough in our jail to provide them in-reach services, which I would disagree with, and I have disagreed with. Because the issue is that when they get booked, a lot of times the officer goes to, if they have, they're doing something that warrants them being arrested, they get arrested, and the minute they're getting released, the officer isn't even back on the street because they're still processing. So the dynamic of what they're going in for and how long they stay, it's a difficulty because there are sometimes quality of life issues that the district attorney, even though we have a really, really good relationship with our district attorney, it's really hard to, it's a vicious cycle that just keeps on going. You can't keep them in long enough because it doesn't necessarily warrant, they can't pay for the fine or what have you, so then they just get released. Because they go to court, and the court goes, can you pay for this? No, I can't. Okay, you're out. So it's a difficult thing locally, but what Commissioner Kaufman is talking about is the county jail system, which is a bigger machine and has the inmate release situation, which is usually longer time incarceration and more supportive services looking to wrap around. But that is where Measure H money is, to do some jail in reach. So.
And with the county system, what you're talking about primarily, if not exclusively, is inmates who have been sentenced, convicted of a crime, been sentenced, and finished their sentence, as opposed to in local jails, you have people who may be arrested and spend a couple hours in custody until they bail out or are released without charges being filed. If you've been in custody for 6 months, you're much more likely to not have a place to go back to than someone who's been in custody for 6 hours. So
right.
It's based more on inmates who have been sentenced and completed their sentence over a longer period of time. So the county system is where it would be applicable.
Not to get too. Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
Go
I
ahead.
was going to ask, what is the time limit that they can hold them here in West Covina, homeless? Is there a time limit?
I don't know the answer. Well, not homeless. We don't hold them for being homeless. We hold them for committing.
Violating something.
Right. Yeah.
So then you transfer them to the county, is that it?
If they're going to be booked and then, there's another process that takes longer, yes, they get transferred to the county. If the court finds that they're going to be charged with something, then yes. So, but I don't know the average length of stay. It's definitely a transitional, temporary housing, yeah.
Through arraignment.
It's on.
Through arraignment, and then they either go or leave.
You want to add something?
Yeah, I mean, most scenarios that I hear about are very short term, and particularly with people who happen to commit a crime and are booked for a crime and arrested. Those that are there is a good portion of those that happen to be homeless, and then it's just a revolving door where you'll have someone who's cited for trespassing, and they'll be arrested for trespassing, and they'll be in for 2-3 hours booked, and then they're back out on the street, back to the same spot. So I mean, it's one of those things where I disagree with the notion that this is just something that we should have the county look at. This should be something that we do essentially at the city level, because again, unfortunately, not to say all homeless commit crimes or anything like that, but those that tend to create a wider problem for the city and do not want to get services or anything like that, are not provided those opportunities, or the city's not in a position to provide them with those opportunities to sort of break the cycle. Once we have basically our professional babysitters in the police department go in and arrest them, temporarily incarcerate them in our jail, and then put them back out on the street in a few hours. That's a silly process. It doesn't result in any positive outcomes. It's just a revolving door, and we need to really look at that if we're serious about resolving this. That's all I have to say.
Okay, good. Okay, then for the record, Bill Kaufman's agreed to write the letter and have it forwarded on to the city council for approval, right? And then forward it from here, so it'll be a while before we get the letter out here, but thank you, Phil. Okay, we'll move on to number 7, which is Commissioner Zaklama requested an update on special event calendar in conjunction with infrastructure of the parks to hold special events.
Dr. Zaklama, to get to this question, we started the conversation last time. We talked about our special events infrastructure. I apologize for not having the updated special event list here for you. Dr. Zaklama and I will be taking a tour on Thursday. I'll make sure you have it there, and then if everyone would like it, I'll make sure it's in the packet next meeting. Special events were reinstated. We're providing all the special events we've provided in the past, minus the 4th of July. What we'll be doing an event here July 3rd, a concert with a laser light show instead of fireworks. So we'll still be doing something to celebrate the 4th of July. As pertaining to the infrastructure, the issue we have in most of our locations here in the city is parking. You know, bringing a large group of people together. Even the 4th of July, which is an event, we would say about 6,500 people that we had at Big League Dreams last year. We came up with parking plans. There's other places. We tried to shuttle people in, but people were still walking, crossing streets. Traffic control became a real problem. And so there was a lot of issues that arose from that. So in your question, talking to infrastructure, you know, most of the events, the bigger events we've done have been here at the Civic Center because we do have space, we do have parking. People can walk at the mall, which has established, you know, pedestrian crosswalks and things to come over. So most of our big ticket items per se have been here at the Civic Center. Another issue is our parks are impacted. You know, there's very rarely that we have an event in the city that there's not something else going on. So on top of bringing the people in, the people that are already there existing, and a lot of the residents in our areas that are in the parks, Palmview, Del Norte being the two that come to mind that just have very limited parking, and then people start approaching the neighborhoods, and then they're blocking driveways and issues like that. So moving forward on the infrastructure, I don't know if that completely answers your question or how we're going to move forward. Obviously, Measure A funds, Measure A funding and project lists, those are things that will be coming up in those talks. So that's where some of that stuff will be addressed. School district is building facilities that, you know, there's potentially possibly partnerships with to do things like that, amphitheaters. I'm hearing amphitheaters and things like that. So I do think there's going to be avenues that we can take to alleviate some of that to offer more. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's been the main problem we have with the infrastructure.
Yeah, the source of the question comes from just the curiosity of, are there funds that we can use that will offset recurring yearly funds of events that we're doing every single year? So it sounds like traffic management is one of the things. Does it sound like those funds can build parking structures and things like that? But maybe there could be cute developments as far as traffic management, some rec spaces that could be designed in certain ways where traffic management is easier and you have to put less funds into volunteers to manage traffic. But that's just an example based on you saying traffic management. I was thinking of, you know, stages, amphitheaters, whatever it could be, grant funds that could offset recurring yearly funds for all these events is where the source of the question came from.
I guess I was confusing the question because it sounds like to me, we're trying to say, like, to me, we're looking at our infrastructure, so we're looking at our facilities themselves. It seems we need to plan the facilities with the infrastructure you're talking about, the stages, amphitheaters, things like that. And I'm just saying in that, we would make sure we take care of the parking and everything as well. So I think that would be part of the Measure A funding, the grants, things coming at CIP, all those areas. So those committees are already kind of in place.
An example I can give you is Heritage Park. So some of you may recall years ago there was a master plan done for, and it was phased in that there's a Taylor House at Heritage Park, and there's walking trails, and there was a bridge. We have since demolished the bridge because we had safety issues because the bridge became in disrepair. But it was kind of like a bridge to nowhere. It literally went over a little creek, and then there's a little patio area or a little picnic area. But there's no parking. So there was a plan for an amphitheater to be held at Heritage Park. It's a beautiful setting. It's a beautiful park, and there's ample space to do that in. But there's no parking. So then you go, okay, well, we can park on the street. You can't. It's Cameron. Okay, then you go, we can park in the residential area. That's not really feasible either, because then you have people, you're going to have droves of people walking along Cameron, which becomes very busy in that area. And then, okay, well, then maybe we could potentially do a shuttle from South Hills. And it just, so we're thinking, I mean, right now, just out of the top, we've already had internal conversations about what a gem the Taylor House is and what we can do to highlight and do events, and we had a volunteer group that was maintaining the house and doing events there on a quarterly basis, and that no longer exists, so, you know, staff still maintains, and we're trying to figure out what we can do to highlight the space, but also have a fun event there. And it always comes back to two things: restrooms and parking. There is a restroom at the Taylor House, but it is not plumbing that is designed for, you know, a few hundred people. So then you bring in porta potties, and then you have to shuttle, and so it just becomes a logistic nightmare. So when I was thinking, and you know, Mike and I have been talking, but really we think about, like, so if we're gonna hold events, what do we need for the long term? Because we don't wanna have to haul out our stage and pay employees to set up, tear down all the time. But at the same time, that's a cost savings measure compared to maintaining an old, you know, stage vehicle that we used to have. So we have had some efficiencies over the time, but at the same time, there's some bigger multi-million-dollar projects at stake in order to really, like, make those master plans come to fruition, if that helps answer your question.
And I think our goal is to find homes for all these things where you know that, okay, annually, we're going to be at this location doing this thing, you know, whatever that event is. So that is the goal, and I think we're already in the process of that, and we include, as funds come available, we include the commission and try, you know, that's where the input comes in, and then our feedback as well.
Yeah, I think, so obviously budget always is a concern in every city, not just our city. And, you know, recurring maintenance costs is a big part of the budget. So when we develop new projects or we fix things that are constantly being maintained, we're saving money yearly, but we're using grant money to do it, or funds outside of.
So you're looking for additional funds is what you're looking for?
No, I'm using to utilize the same funds that are approved for us, 300K or whatever it is. That will save us yearly money. Save us money from our general budget. So for example, we're gonna repair a lot of stuff that I'm sure you're gonna show me on Thursday. That will then stop the need to spend maintenance costs that I'm sure you keep getting phone calls for the same exact.
We definitely are trying to, you know, obviously my job is expanded into that role where I'm seeing both sides now, not just the community side. So obviously our goal is always to do that and take advantage of everything we have. And Kelly and I are working on ways now to make sure that we can address those things and utilize everything.
And I'm sure you guys are already doing that. I was just thinking, can we do something with special events as well? If there are recurring costs for special events that are coming from general funds or general budget, how can we offset those recurring costs or kind of minimize them based on any sort of infrastructure we're planning for? And if it's going to be at this same park, the same event, we're going to have the same needs. For example, porta potties I just heard right now. If we're going to have porta potties every time, or we're going to have plumbing needs every single time this event happens, we could use some of these funds, plan it out. It doesn't have to be this year. It sounds like we have some immediate concerns for repairs. Might be not next year, but in a few years out, we could use those funds to offset yearly budget, general budget funds.
Yeah, and
that was where the curiosity came from.
Okay, yeah, and I think that's where our team is thinking right now is the immediate the infrastructure that's in disrepair now. We want to the best of our ability, bring that up to the level of expectation and need, and then moving forward, longer term, addressing some of those master plan ideas in conjunction with where we hold special events, yes.
So on Thursday, maybe when we go out, you'll point out some things, and I'll maybe ask about certain needs for events, and we'll see.
Give me all the information you want. You ask the questions, I'll have the answers.
Careful what you wish for.
Nicole, I was going to ask, is it right for an individual, a commissioner, to go out and seek for grants?
Oh, yeah. You guys want to be my grant people? I'm on it, yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know, a couple of years ago, Commissioner Mason was on that, and I can't remember, Commissioner Stewart, were you on the subcommittee when we did the inclusive playground?
Yep.
Yeah. So I had gotten a CPRS grant, and that paid for a portion of the playground. Not the whole thing, but it paid for a portion of it. And, you know, over the years, you know, let's see, we got the United States Soccer Foundation grant for the Orangewood Soccer Complex. So absolutely, if I can get other hands to want to apply for grants.
Do we have a special letter for that? Or do we?
We don't have a special letter because I will tell you that what I would recommend is that if you're out in the community as a commissioner and you find out about an opportunity, that you let us know, because the grant process has gotten very involved over the years.
Yeah.
It has gone from a simple letter of intent and, you know, provide some basic organizational information to I mean, when I logged on to do the Soccer Foundation grant, I remember I was at home and it was about 9 o'clock at night, and I literally had to get it done by midnight, and I was 11:59 p.m. because it was data, and I was texting Mike, and I was texting soccer people, and I was getting additional data that I didn't have, and it was pulling all that data, plus the demographics, plus you have to write a narrative. I had some of it already done, but I didn't realize as you're going through, and you have to save your process along in the web portal. So all of them have transitioned to that. You have to have all of your tax information, your IRS letter, your nonprofit information. So we use the foundation arm to help us apply for some of that stuff. So it's very involved. So what I would say is that it's not just a simple letter, so you'll have to report back to us. I know that Susie, our community services supervisor at the senior center, she applied for Kaiser grants. We're waiting to hear back on that. So there are opportunities that come, and sometimes they're annual opportunities, and sometimes they're out of the blue opportunities. So anything that you hear, we're interested in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else for the special events and parks that we want to talk about? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on to number 8, which is facility reports for February and March 2019, recommended to receive and file.
So I wanted to make a comment. Commissioner Bennett had asked about the way that our online app breaks out data. He wanted to get some more information on homelessness, but that's not necessarily that there's no subcategory of homeless, because again, we don't want to get into the situation of criminalizing homeless. So it's, on another tab, and you can report a homeless encampment, you can report illegal activity, but to just simply do a homeless tab, I don't know that we're there yet, and we can definitely explore that discussion with the homeless subcommittee.
Okay, fine. Any questions? I have a couple questions. Anybody else have anything? I just have a couple I checked here. On code enforcement and graffiti, it says total 193. Is that from the public, or is that total in the town? That's on the month of February.
That is just directly from the app, from the community.
Community, what, for graffiti?
Graffiti,
From the community?
yeah, from the community, yes.
193. And what about the code enforcement? It says 75.
Code enforcement is what's reported. This is all reported through the application, not through the app, not directly to code enforcement. They have total different numbers. So this is just directly through the online application to submit a complaint or a request.
All right, that's your question. Anything else, Betty? Go ahead.
Yes, do we have a company or an organization that's removing now the graffiti?
We have a crew.
You have a crew? Now, do we call the city, or do we call?
You can report it on the online app, you can let Mike know, you can call our
You can
maintenance
call the
line.
hotline, you can call the graffiti hotline still available, let us through the app, all the same ways still apply.
I just have one quick question, because I do like all the subtypes that you have in there, but it would be nice to know, because obviously you have work order statuses. It'd be nice to know or how many of them are complete in each subcategory, how many are active. I'm sure you guys probably have a way of just adding in that statistic.
For each subcategory?
Yeah.
Okay, so on the left, the work order status type, you'd like those built into on the right side of each subcategory?
Right.
Okay.
And I mean, there's the one thing that I think would be very helpful in terms of providing to us and also the council would be, what issues are lagging in terms of, obviously this is just for February. So hypothetically, let's say we have issues in January that were not completed or are still active. Is there any way that we can see, time for completion, or what the
Commissioner Lewis, I'll get done.
Okay, well, yeah, no, I'm sure.
Okay, you know what, like I said, as far as public works and our entries and stuff, we get on them right away.
Right.
I think the lag where you're gonna see is code enforcement, and that's because of the laws and the times it takes behind that.
Right.
So I think that'll be, it's very rare we don't get a work order done there are exceptions.
Right.
But, yeah, so you'd like to know how long code enforcement's taking to get stuff done?
Well,
That's where it's
I-
gonna come down to.
Well, it's not even just that. I think one thing that would be nice to know is, what are our average turnaround times, for completion of each of the, let's say requests or whatever, just so that we have an idea on how effective we are, and perhaps we need to dedicate more resources in this area versus this area.
I think the thing, I understand what you're trying to quantify.
Yeah.
From working in the department, I think the thing that's gonna be tough is we're very reactionary.
Right.
We jump on these right away. This isn't capturing what the problem is. The problem is all the regular stuff that we're missing. So, we will definitely get that information to you.
Sure.
I think my point being on the other end, we're saying the app is important. The stuff that's coming, the information that is showing up here, it is a tool, and we want to make sure that our community is happy and we get to it. But the concern is on the back end, what are we missing? So.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that number would be just as helpful to you guys as us, quite frankly. That way, you kind of know, hey, we're taking 72 hours to address this on average versus, 24 on this. Hey, we're doing this well versus, this, we're a little slow on the 8 ball, but, maybe that's reasonable. And I don't know. I mean, each complaint is obviously, or each request, I should say, but let's be honest, they're really complaints.
True. A lot about requests.
Oh, okay.
I would say a majority are valid requests.
Okay, all right. But in any case, they're addressing concerns that obviously need to be taken care of, and so I just want to know, just what's the average kind of turnaround time on things. Like I said, I think that that will maybe be helpful, frankly, even come budget time.
We will try to quantify that the best we can.
Any other questions? I have one more. On the Cortez Park, on the paid fee classes, are those numbers accurate? It says daily average 257 on the Happy Line dancers? In one
Yeah.
day?
That is correct.
Yep.
One of the most popular classes.
Where do they put them all? Or are they different times?
They do it all on the north wing. Yeah, they're on the north wing. Because it's crowded in there. It's a very popular
And
class.
they're all there at one time?
Yeah.
Wow.
Whoa.
That's a lot.
A lot of happy people.
Are these numbers capacity or are these numbers?
This is actual attendance participants.
Is that line dancing?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's just fantastic numbers. That really is something. That really is something.
Do these
Okay.
people sign up per quarter or?
This one I think is per class.
Yeah, they can sign up for a 6-week period or per class.
It's kind of
Just
tough
drop
to
in.
believe that February and March are exactly the same. I mean, like exactly the same people bought coffee cards in
Oh, yeah.
February and March.
That's routine. Some of those things are routine.
You
They
literally
sell
have,
only so many a day, I think.
you literally have down the line identical numbers.
Identical numbers, yeah.
February to March. So I don't know if the app is printing out what's capacity or the app is literally saying 257 people attended in February and 257 people attended in March. And everything else is exactly the same as well.
At the senior center, that is likely because there is a max number of meals, max number of seats.
And that's not printed from an app. That is actually either through in-person registration or through Dash, depending upon what it is.
Would you see that they're literally identical February and March?
We can go back and
across the
ask,
board?
we can go back and verify.
Yeah, I'll pull the numbers, I'll confirm.
I'm not just talking about that one thing, I'm talking about every single line here is exactly the same February and March.
Do they pay more than 1 month at a time? Maybe they.
Yeah, that's why I asked,
Yeah,
it's quarterly.
they might be-
They didn't go to Pechanga twice, they didn't go to the Wilson Winery twice, and they're both listed twice.
Understood, yeah, I see your point, yeah, we'll check it out.
That's only once in a while.
Is it a carryover, Deb?
All right. We can check
That
it out.
probably is.
Any other questions on that part? We'll go ahead and move on to number 9, which is an update on Measure A funding for the project improvements.
So the Measure H update is that just yesterday, we received word from the county and Kelly attended a workshop last week that the application process has been opened for Measure A, so the lawsuit has been settled. There was a resident in some city that was suing on behalf of that his property tax dollars didn't go to, support everybody else's parks. That lawsuit has been settled. The city is anticipating receiving $323,000 approximately in annual allocation. They're up to 5 years that we can bank. Yeah, so there's up to 5 years that we can bank. So if we wanted to do a bigger project, we could bank that money and then not spend, so we wouldn't spend, for the next few years and then do a bigger project. There's maintenance and servicing money that's attached to this as part of the allocation, and I'm going to have Deb hand this out. We'll split the room. You go that way, I'll go this way.
We have to pay?
What's that?
This is what we have to pay?
Yeah, no, this is an allocation. It shows at the bottom is West Covina, and it just kind of shows there was a previous park bond that was done. So we actually have funding in a maintenance and servicing account. And so that kind of just, it gives you a breakdown of what the past allocations were and what the current allocation. Now granted, this was an older printout, so I think on here it says our annual is 330, so it's a little bit less, but give or take. Sorry, Deb, I have more handouts. I know. I don't want you to rest today.
Here.
Poor Deb, I shouldn't make you walk. You have a hairline
No,
fracture.
it's almost healed.
So also what I wanted to give you is the park needs assessment. This was the second reevaluation. So we did an initial park needs assessment when the Measure A funding was planning to be allocated when there was a tax measure going through. And then we did a second meeting in November of 2017. Those who were on the commission remember at that time. And the revised park needs assessment, as you'll see on the bottom of that sheet, it talks about, the bottom of that sheet talks about what was actually removed. So the initial 2016 park needs assessment was done, and that had a list of projects. And then when we did a follow-up reevaluation, there were some projects that were removed. So keep in mind that the reason why, moving forward, there's 9 projects. If those of you at the park needs assessment remember, some of those projects counted for 2 projects based on the size and scope. So that's what we would be submitting to the county. So they have not asked for this reevaluation to be submitted yet. And it will be a discussion that we'll have moving forward on what the goals and objectives are of this new council and what they want to do moving forward with this list. Because I think one of the criticisms that we had from this particular park needs assessment was that it was in conjunction with a community meeting regarding the equestrian center at Ridge Riders. And so some of the people that were coming were not residents of West Covina, or a lot of people that were there were not residents of West Covina. And so you can see that one of the items that was added was projects at Ridge Riders, and there was a list of projects that they wanted done. So a big master plan, if you will, of revising the equestrian center. So having said that, if you want to take a look at this updated list for those of you who are not on the commission, and I think that we're going to move forward in terms of the next meeting to discuss whether or not we want to have more park needs assessments, or depending upon where we're at with funding, and again, goals aligned with council, how we're going to move forward. Because one of the goals of the council in the past was to develop the lower plateau at Shadow Oak. And so that is a bigger scope because you're talking about a parking lot, a restroom, and a playground. It's over $1 million. And so we would be looking to use, and at the time when we were planning that project, we were going to be using Measure A dollars to help fund that, but obviously it wouldn't fund the totality of the project. But that was put on hold due to the cost, and the restroom cost actually was about $500,000, so it was way over what we had anticipated. So, but that was bidding things out separately. If you put the project back together, there's some economies of scale to be earned there. So I'm not really sure what the flavor of the council or the commission will be and the council moving forward, but just wanted you to have this information. So if you go over your numbers, going left to right, the estimated allocations to the city, and this was back in 2016, was about $330,000 annually, so obviously we're not too far off on that. And what I wanted to talk about specifically was the maintenance and servicing fund. So the estimated allocations that we will receive are $70,000. So what that means is that, for example, The splash pad that we haven't done already, that was a new project that was put together with old park bond money. That project was a 100% new project, right? So we had no maintenance for a splash pad, and now we have maintenance for a splash pad. So all of that additional money that we're now spending is all covered by that park bond, okay? So all that maintenance money. Well, in that old account, we have about $2 million sitting. You say, oh my gosh, you should be using that to balance the budget. It's not that simple, because we can only use that $2 million to do maintenance on old projects that were done under that old park bond. And Betty's nodding because she knows, because she was here when that happened. Well, some of those projects, we were not very smart. I'm just gonna say that. We were not very smart in how we went about some of those projects, because some of those projects, there's no additional maintenance to be gained from it, because all we did was like swap out a project for a project. So we now are going back and looking, but it takes time to go back and look to see where we can pull, because you can go back and do back invoicing. But for us, we're like, okay, maybe go back a year for right now, and then just start fresh to see what we can gain to update. But an example that I'll give you is like Cortez Park parking lot. Well, the parking lots need to be updated. So a portion, that north parking lot that's above the fields, that actually is covered by maintenance and servicing fund. So we can actually use that. We have an approved project to do that. So we're gonna go back and do slurry seal, and we will use those monies. But that's only a couple $100,000. I have $2 million to burn. So we have to go back, because this new money, it doesn't have a sunset date like the old park bond did, but they will not let us use any of the maintenance and servicing funds for the new projects until we burn the old funding. But they're not interchangeable. So that's really tough. So we're working diligently, and Kelly was very excited to learn that information, that we can't use the new money until we spend the old money. But at least we can use the new money for projects. We just can't use the new money for maintenance. But I will surmise that, whatever we do, it's going to be another year or so before we would need to do the maintenance. So we'll just keep our fingers crossed and, keep processing invoices so we can cut checks to burn the money.
I wanted to let you know, I worked on this.
See? There you go. That's why she's nodding over there.
AARP was very involved in getting the initiative through.
Oh, okay.
And I helped out, and I'm still helping out
Nice.
with that. So I'm very involved with Measure A.
Awesome. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we have a good relationship with our county reps, so that makes it really good. And they have a new online system of how you submit. So we're hoping the reimbursements go faster, because before, reimbursements would be a painstaking process. So
What I was going to say is, we work through Metro, and I believe that's where you get your money from, don't you?
no, this one is the regional
Regional Park and Open Space
Thank
District.
you. I would say open park and
okay.
open space
Yeah.
district.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
It's Metro.
they'll give us 330 per year to do a new project, 326, whatever it is. And they will give us, in addition to that, 70 to maintain any new project. We cannot touch the 70 until we spend the 2 million from previous new projects.
Previous old projects.
But they were new.
They
and
were
that's
new
why
at
we
some
got
point.
the 2 million.
Yes.
Right? Okay. Can we sell the $2 million?
No.
Can we sell it to other cities? Can other cities
It's
use
not
our
like
$2
Prop
million?
A. It was a Prop A, but a different kind of Prop A. I don't want to be confused.
Can we get any sort of tax incentives or tax credits or anything from the $2 million? Nobody can leverage that $2 million.
No. Because the whole point was to develop and expand existing or new park land. So they restricted it, and it was to the vote of the people. It's restricted. The money's restricted.
I also think moving forward on the projects we pick, depending on where it goes, we look at playgrounds, facilities, try to put in stuff that won't need as much maintenance. Like that should be like, instead of doing wood chips that we know is an annual cost that the city has trouble finding, we put in pour and play. We make sure we maximize the 323, because I think there'll be other problems if we blow the 2 million. For example, the splash pad is completely paid out of the 2 million. So if the 2 million's gone, then it's going to be a general fund hit that, that's $70,000, $100,000 that we might not have. So it's a double-edged sword, I would say.
Bridge riders wouldn't qualify as a park.
No, it does, and it's on the park needs assessment from the reassessment.
So could you sum of the 2 million in Ridge riders?
No, No, because we didn't have any of those projects.
We have a list of
We have a
projects.
list of projects, and they're all over the map. You
Yeah.
wouldn't even, if you saw the list, you'd be like, that doesn't even make sense, because some of them are playgrounds.
So Ridge Riders is not on that?
No, Ridge Riders is not on that list. That was not used with park
Okay.
lot money.
All right.
Kelly, can we give some of the money back to California?
What? That's a first, that's a good question.
I'd have to look into that.
So the thing is.
What if we use whatever we need to? We use whatever we need to, give the rest back so we can start using the new money that's coming in for these new projects. Otherwise, we're kind of disincentivizing ourselves from starting new projects because we're not going to be able to use the maintenance money for those new projects.
Well, and so I want to be clear again. If we renovate a park playground, right, and we put in a new park playground, whatever we spent previous on maintenance, we're only going to get the differential. So if we spent, and this is a high number, but if we spent $10,000 on maintenance and we now spend $12,000, we only get $2,000 back from that maintenance and servicing. That's only the difference. So if you put in a brand new project, then it's 100% funded for maintenance moving forward. So whatever you have to maintain there is now covered. I wouldn't advocate giving our money away because like Mike said, we do have costs that come from those old projects. We're just gonna find a way to, you can do, like for example, we're gonna be updating our dog park. That's something that we've had in the back burner. We have approvals, we just haven't been able to get out and do that. That's what they'll call like one-time funds. So when you have an extraordinary expense that you need to do some major renovation on that particular project, like this parking lot, right? They're going to approve those, you just have to get pre-approval. I wanna make sure the commission understands. It's not like I just ring a bell and I get my 323. We have to go through an application. We have to fight for our own money. So we have to go through a grant, it's a grant process, but it's our own money. So again, it's time and energy spent, so we wanna be strategic. There are going to be certain projects, we have to find the balance, and this is what the commission is going to aid the staff in, is that we need to find the balance of finding some projects where we're going to want to use maintenance and servicing funds moving forward, and some projects where it, like, you know, park lighting, we're not going to really get a lot of maintenance money for that because we already had park lighting, but maybe the bulbs will be more expensive, and so we can, you know, take efficiencies that way. But you're going to have a trade-off. But we don't want to do all these projects that have very little maintenance associated with because we're going to lose out on all this funding that we have annually. So we just need to find a balance long term. I know,
Nicole,
that was a new one. That was a new one. The we can't spend new maintenance and servicing money until we spend the $2 million. I about died when Kelly came back and told me that. So I will tell you though, correct me if I'm wrong, Kelly, that we can use the new money for maintenance and servicing on the old projects. Once the old money is spent. So there is an incentive to spend it, because what they don't want us to do is to keep earning money over here, and we're just, you know, creating a big old pile over here. Yeah.
Because we don't lose the 80, we have the 70,000, we don't.
Right, there's no
We don't
sunset.
lose that,
It just
we
sits
keep
in a pool.
gaining. Yeah.
But it's in perpetuity, where right now, those old funding, that had a sunset date, and so that's why they want to clear the books and have everybody spend their money.
And have we received the $2 million that's sitting in an account,
No,
or
it's in an
It's
escrow
in a
account.
holding account. It's an escrow account with a county.
is there, can we earn interest on that?
We are.
We are.
Yeah.
That's why it's a $2 million.
That
Okay.
makes it even.
Because it's from 92 or 96.
So if we could earn interest on it, there's some sort of leeway somewhere. Because how are we earning interest? Some money market or something, or?
I'm not sure what kind of
They
investment that
invest
they
it.
have
You
that
have to
in,
use that.
but it's very nominal.
But there's no us leveraging it. It's holding, it's sitting in an account, and they're very specific on their,
And 2 million will go pretty quickly. And
Once yeah.
we got approved, the parking lot we got approved for was 250,000 original estimate. That'll probably go up like most projects tend to do. And we're looking at a handful of other things that we'd be able to really enhance some things and spend the money quickly, but you know, effectively.
The PR on sending 500K back to the state to help out our state would be phenomenal. It's just a general comment.
I think our state has a surplus and West Covina is running a deficit, so I don't know how the
Yeah.
PR's gonna work
I
there.
think it would be phenomenal. I think that would go viral. But you want to say something?
So, wait, I'm a bit lost on this. But this has nothing to do with his commentary. I'm actually more curious as to why is it that Measure A funding is tied to a former measure's maintenance allocation dollars? Like where is that? Is that that's part of Measure A?
It's in their guideline book. Yeah.
Well, wait.
Confirmed it.
Hold on.
This is the attorney.
No. This is in their guideline book?
Yes.
Or is this part of the law?
Well, we'd have to go back and dissect it.
Well,
You
then
wanna volunteer
I'm
to
going to go ahead and
We'll
put
give
in
you
my
the info.
request that come back next time, because obviously if they're creating this arbitrary guideline that we have to do this to get our own money, obviously I'm going to recommend that the council file a lawsuit against the County of Los Angeles if that's what's actually
They already
going on.
were in a lawsuit for the last 2+ years,
Wow.
and they won. So,
Like I said, if they're creating these artificial guidelines that the voters never voted for, I have a big problem with that, and everyone in this room should have a big problem with that too. Because as I recall, I don't think that was in the measure.
I don't remember in any workshop that Kelly and I attended that them ever discussing that we had to spend the previous money before we moved forward with the new maintenance and servicing money. I don't remember that ever being a part of the conversation.
See, that's
Whether or
new.
not it was part of the law,
That is new.
yeah, I don't know.
That's new to me.
Yeah.
I
That
didn't know
definitely, that's not even something that should be in consideration here. The city council and the city attorney should be on that like yesterday. And if they're not doing their job.
We'll give you another update on the next
Okay.
meeting.
I appreciate it.
Anything else on Measure A? I think we kind of covered it for today. I will move on to number 10. This is also an update to Commissioner Cochran's request that the Historical Society bus be displayed at a secure location at City Hall.
So I have a temporary location, not a permanent location.
Okay.
The city manager has authorized the Historical Society to display it in the city manager's office. That is the only open public area that we can secure to ensure that it does not get stolen at this time.
Okay, well, I will bring that information to the Historical Society and see what the reaction is.
Okay.
I know there's been a problem with going forward with their plan of doing one bust every year because the person who had been chosen for this year, his family has declined.
Oh.
So they don't have someone.
The only other place that I would recommend is the Plaza West Covina.
Yeah,
That maybe they
that's
have
all I
somewhere,
heard.
yeah.
Yeah, and since my original request back in January, there's been some determinations made as how the Historical Society is going to go forward with their own facilities. And one could be a much larger facility for works of art, items of historical significance at Dr. Tennant's old medical office. So,
But it'd be nice to have it somewhere in City Hall.
somewhere with public access.
Yeah.
That's the whole point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Any other comments on the?
I'm ready.
Okay, we'll go to number 11. Update on Commissioner Lewis's request for uses for the parcel of South Cameron and East Hills Drive.
So the update on that issue is that that particular parcel is located in Landscape Maintenance District 6. The hillside leads to water runoff and it goes to the catch basin. And so obviously if a project were to move forward there, we would need to engage the county in a bigger conversation. We would need to provide for stormwater runoff. And there is no funding in LMD 6 for such a project at this time. So we would need to notice the residents and move forward from there and see if they would be interested in raising their rates, which I don't know that they would want to do that.
Highly unlikely.
Highly unlikely. We can't even get an increase in the citywide lighting and maintenance district, so.
All right. It's too bad they can't use it for a temporary parking lot for
Yes.
events over at Taylor. Road.
Yeah, and with the drainage, that's definitely an issue because that requires a lot of engineering and
Of course.
It is too bad.
How big a parcel is it?
I'm sure on the total.
I'm sorry, I don't have that, I don't have the actual size.
An acre?
No,
I was
not
thinking-
quite.
I was thinking 3/4 of an acre.
Oh, okay. I was gonna look
Is
at
that
that.
small?
I'm not the best judgment on this, but I would,
Yeah.
you're asking me to guess, I say 3/4 of an acre.
It's a few acres.
3/4 would be like 35,000 feet, square feet. something like
Because
that.
I don't know all of what's ours, I'm trying to think to the map, right now it's a small section. Because I think some of it is property of the hillside owner as well.
It goes back a ways. I was looking at the plat map on it, but it goes back a ways. I don't know, but yeah, okay, well, that's disappointing.
Wait, it doesn't mean it's done. It might be few years, but I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
that's
it's
a good.
it's a much bigger conversation. It's done for this moment, but it's
Yeah.
a much bigger conversation. Not gonna happen overnight.
But Nick, that's a freaking great find, and that part of the city it's a prime spot for something.
It'd be nice.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go on to the ad hoc committee reports and fiscal year 19 and 20 community development block grant funding, public service project funding recommendations.
Okay, thank you. The purpose of this item is to consider funding recommendations of the CDBG ad hoc committee for public service providers that requested funding through the city's community development block grant program for fiscal year 2019-2020. The city receives an annual grant of CDBG funds from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, and the primary objective of the federal program is to develop viable urban communities. And public services are among the eligible activities under the CDBG program. It's a broad range of things that fall under that definition in the regs, and we've historically there are food services, senior services, child care services, services like that fall under this umbrella. The city has historically funded public services at the maximum level allowed by regulation, and we published a notice of funding availability earlier in the year and received 11 applications that far exceeded resources. 3 of those programs are administered by the city, and 1 fulfills a federal requirement for us. So since fiscal year 2012-2013, they've been removed from consideration for this process, and we've funded them at a status quo funding since that time. Let's see, based on the next year's allocation from HUD and the program income that we received, we expect $32,260 would be available for the balance of the 7 applicants. The CDBG ad hoc committee received and reviewed application packets, which included budget information, tax filings, nonprofit filings, and recent audits if applicable. And the committee met on May 2nd to hear presentations of the applicants and ask questions of them. Following the meeting, the ad hoc committee developed the funding recommendations that are shown in Table 1 of the report to be considered by the commission. Attachment 1 includes narrative descriptions of the applicants and their proposed activities, and attachment number 2 displays an evaluation table that summarizes proposed performance at the requested funding level. The commission may approve and modify the recommendations of the ad hoc committee, and approved recommendations will then be transmitted to the city council for consideration at the public hearing on June 4th. That concludes my report. I'll be happy to answer questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, I need a, go ahead.
Just
Go ahead.
one question. This actually sort of off the topic of the 7 applicants that we considered with regard to the Housing Rights Center. I just wanted to ask whether or not, because it's been a number of years since we've actually reviewed that, and obviously because of the fact that it is essentially a requirement, even though it's not a requirement, but it's kind of a requirement. I was just curious what the status was with regard to how many residents that has served over the past year, and whether or not they're actually doing a good job at advocating for residents who have housing rights concerns, and whether or not there's an alternative out there.
Okay. I'd have to bring the information back to you, and I don't have that with me. I did go out and visit the site, and they went through case files from last year. There were a couple that got to a point where they were representing them. There's a lot of call-ins and referrals and so forth. I'm not aware of an alternative.
Okay.
But, because they provide service for about 20 other agencies in LA County, LA City, and so forth. So if you're aware of another agency.
I just want to see whether or not, our constituents are being well served by that agency. That's really all. Because obviously, it's one of those things where I think, as a result of the fact that it is, this pseudo requirement and everything, and obviously they really don't care one way or another. They don't show up or anything like that, and, other than to provide an application each year to continue their funding. So I guess the main thing is, because it's been a number of years since it's been something that has been considered, I just want to make sure that our CDBG dollars are going to fund that cause in a worthwhile manner.
I'll bring that back.
Bill, am I wrong, or is this figure of $32,000 a lot less than we've had available in the last few years?
No, it's pretty close. Last year's the last year's award is shown on this table was $35,000.
Okay.
For this, the other four amount to about $96,000. That's our senior meals program. It's 60, our domestic violence victim advocate that's funded through in the police department. That's about $20,000 there. Our care shift, which is a child care subsidy program that our public services department administers, there's $6,000 there. And then the fair housing, which is 10. So there's 96 other.
Yeah, that's the figure I guess I was thinking.
Any other questions?
I tried to look at this, and every time on my computer, I just got nothing. So is there a problem? I mean, I don't know whether I'm the only one that had this problem, or did anyone else try and look at it? Or is there a problem with the software and actually let me see them?
I don't know, because it was emailed to you in addition to it being online. So there's two ways you can access it. The commission report, is that what you're saying?
No, just this, the two attachments.
Yeah, I don't know, because there's two ways that you can view it, either through the PDF that was emailed to you or online through the agenda quick process on our website.
PDF, maybe I just
Okay.
missed it.
Or maybe it's just the way it came up and it was distorted. Sometimes there's problems with the way
I
it
went
reads
to
it.
the agenda,
Okay.
to the city
On the website.
website and
Okay.
tried to get it there, and it wouldn't come up.
Okay, I don't know, yeah.
Okay.
So
Because I was kind of in the dark about this.
So the summary table, total project budget, is that their particular project budget?
Yes.
And then the estimated total to serve, 2019, 2020, what is that? That's all they'll need
That's-
for that fiscal year? So that's column B.
They're estimated to serve.
Column B. So those are the amount of people they say they'll serve
Yeah.
with 65
that's
grand? Or those are the amount of people they'll say they'll serve with 20 grand?
That's the amount of people
just
that they're
period.
going to be serving for 5,000. Or, I'm sorry,
So their total
For
project budget, and then their amount
the
requested.
estimated total. Yes, the estimated total is the total number of people that they would be serving.
And they're requesting, let's just as, so the first row, the Action Food Pantry is an example.
Yes.
So they're asking for 20 grand in 2019, 2020,
Right.
but that's not necessarily all in West Covina, what they're asking for.
No, they're asking for 20,000 from West Covina. Their total budget is 65,000. They're saying they're going to serve a total of 3,600 people. Of those, 583 would be from West Covina, based on that 20,000.
I got you. Okay. past, how would you kind of limit the money to these projects? How would you decide? Just based on our experience with them or their history, or how would you make a good recommendation to the council?
Well, basically, the same people that come up forward every year, so we kind of know, Rick and I that did the work on it, and we kind of know who's coming and what they're doing, but they do present their story to us. They're well aware that we're going to get less than they're asking for, but what they're asking for is normal, and we do the best we can to give it to them where we think it should go. And that's how everybody gets something, but nobody gets a lot. That's what it amounts to.
And then you'd like to see how many West Covina residents are using it,
Yeah.
because it's broken down.
Right, yeah.
Right, I mean, it's not an exact science in terms of how you break stuff down. You know, some of the stuff is based upon, you know, an absence of service providers for that particular type of service that they provide the community. And so, for example, Meals on Wheels is something that we usually try to allocate as much as we possibly can to, because of the fact that it is, it only serves a portion of the city, but that's because the other side, for whatever reason, just doesn't apply for it. It is a good service. The other thing is like the SCAP program. You know, that right there provides for an individual to go to the senior center and meet with seniors with various case management issues. You know, everything that they could possibly need. There's sort of a central point person that seniors in our community can go directly to. You know, with regard to you know, East San Gabriel Valley Coalition for the Homeless, they're basically the only shelter in this area. That's pretty much it. And you know, they do rapid rehousing and all of those kinds of things. So we try to fund them even though they're outside of the city. There's various different food pantries that are kind of all over the place. Most of them are, I think all of them are outside the city, but one is going to be coming back, right, Dave? I'm trying to remember. Which one was it that was going to be back here? Well, I think Corey's Kitchen is merging with Shepherd's Pantry. Yeah, Shepherd's Pantry, and they're looking to come back into West Covina. So, I mean, there's a whole slew of different things that go into the calculus on this, and obviously, you know, Dave and I have been around this process for a number of years, and we all know what great work that all of these agencies do. And so, you know, some years we'll ask them, and every year I ask them whether or not they have a specific need that particular year. So we'll allocate more sometimes if there's a specific need for that particular year. Again, it just depends. We try to evaluate as they come to us, because we know what they do. We know that they're great service providers, and to that end, we try to really allocate as much as we can to all of them to the extent we can, because they're all great causes.
Right. They're all well aware we get limited funds. They know that, but they all get something out of it, and they're all great causes. I mean, it's just a shame.
And they all work with each other. I mean, we have a great community of basically charitable organizations that all work hand in hand with one another. I mean, it's fantastic. There's not, you know, this, you know, we're at odds with one another or anything like that. No, they'll say, go to them, or you know, they'll send a potential client from one to the other, and, you know, they all kind of cover each other's, you know, sort of holes or, you know, things that they don't provide, right?
This year it didn't come up actually, but last year they made a comment. They even trade supplies back and forth. If one has excess, they'll trade, and it's a fantastic deal. And if you read through the deal, there's one in there that has a new program, a bridge program. It takes it more than just a day or at a time. It takes a whole family for a week or two.
Right.
And it's an awesome program. It's just unfortunate that we're limited on funds, you know, so we can't do anything about it. But it's a good cause.
Is it
Very good cause.
pretty much the same 7 that they built like a good
Yeah,
relationship.
one
with
dropped
each
out
other.
this year, but we had pretty much the same year after year so far. Yeah, we have. Any more questions? If not, I need a motion to approve this and send it on to the city council for approval.
Motion approved.
Second?
Second, so we have a roll call on that?
Commissioner Stewart,
Aye.
Commissioner Din,
Hi.
Commissioner Kaufman,
Aye.
Commissioner Lewis,
Aye.
Commissioner Mason,
Aye.
Commissioner Molnar,
Aye.
Commissioner Velez,
Aye.
Commissioner Williams,
Aye.
Commissioner Zaklama.
Aye.
So it's passed on unanimous. Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is commissioner reports. Well, we can start with Tam and we'll go right on the table.
Nothing to report.
No report. Bill, I know you got something.
Well, after a wait that seemed like about 3 or 4 decades, Porto's finally open.
Yay.
And they had their soft opening by invitation only, then they had their big grand opening, and the lines were just unbelievable, but they did
Still are.
a fabulous job promoting their business. I mean, at that soft opening, they must have given away, I don't know, thousands of dollars in free food and drinks.
Oh, yeah.
And also even the regular grand opening, they had a VIP room that gave away more. They really know how to promote their business, and the building is just unbelievable. So from now on, it's going to be when people ask where is West Covina, all they have to do is say, just look for Porto's on the freeway.
Right.
There's also an opening for Toby's Latin Grill, and they didn't give anything away. So I hope they do well, but they had a different way of promoting their business.
Yeah, for sure.
2 other things a little different. First was I was at Mike Spence's funeral, and it was tremendously well attended. There were probably over 500 people there, and there's some great emotional and funny stories from his family, from his wife and his sisters and his kids. And it was just, under all the circumstances, it was very well done, and like I said, very well attended. Also yesterday at Queen of the Valley, they had a public meeting. There was an update on the status, the CEQA and the EIR status of the expansion and what they're doing with the land from the Little League fields that were purchased. And what's amazing to me is so many people are so interested in the city selling what they consider to be parkland to a private business. At that meeting yesterday, there were people from the planning department, people from the hospital, a couple of neighbors, me, and one other person. Yeah, I would have thought that there would have been a lot of interest to see what's happening with the project, especially it's really at an important point now. The environmental impact report, proposed environmental impact report is out, and it's a public comment period, so people can put in any objections or any approval of what they think the project is, or what it's going to be, or what it should be, or what it isn't going to be. And this is an important point, and there's nobody there. So there's, I guess, a couple more weeks of public comment, and then hopefully it'll move forward towards completion of all the governmental requirements, and the city will get the $3 or $4 million worth, and they'll have their new ER and their new ICU and new medical office building in addition to the hospital itself. So it's a tremendous project that the community needs, and it's moving forward.
Nothing at this time.
Nothing, Carol? No. One thing about what Phil's talking about, Queen of the Valley's under a new banner right now, but they all changed, and I think the ER is going to be 120 beds as opposed to they have 40 inside now.
I don't think there were even 40 in the ER.
And how many now?
Yeah, I don't think it even was that.
No, not even, it's going to go to 100.
Yeah, it's going to be a major.
But I just wonder if there's going to be any changes in their plans, not there under the banner. Well, time will tell.
Yeah, I think it's so early in that they're just taking over in the last month.
Yeah.
So
They're
I
sure
don't
gonna
think
decide
there's
something very
any,
well.
I don't think they're in a position to make any changes in what the plan was.
Right.
But going forward, I'm sure any new company that takes over, and you went from a company that manages 4 hospitals to a company that manages about 20, so it's a significantly larger enterprise now than it was before.
Correct.
So bigger.
Anyway, interest to me was homeless. We had a homeless meeting at Shadowwalk Park, not Shadowwalk, Cortez Park, so our last meeting. Toby's Latin Grill, like you said, very different, but it's pretty loud and it's pretty funny. Now, and then I went to Portals. Funny thing about Portals, I was at Starbucks today. There's people outside with drinks. Pretty soon this lady pulls up, she's got the big bag of Portals. This is all designed. She comes over, says the craziest thing happened. And the guy says, what? I walked out and some lady said, did you buy a lemon cake? She says, I'll give you more than you pay for it. She was in line.
Oh my God.
She was in line. She said, I'll give you more than you paid for it. And it was pretty funny. Anyway, that's the things I've done, so.
Well, I happened to be at Porto's yesterday. It only took 20 minutes for lunch.
That's not bad.
That's pretty good.
So that wasn't bad. That, of course, was the 5th time we cruised by different days that we could get in.
Yeah.
But yeah, the grand opening was really neat. It was really neat. I talked to Susie, who is a gem at the senior center. And what a really neat person that has a handle on everything. I think with all the years I've been on this, I think she's the best, let me tell you. We're really, it's good to have her. She was saying they were passing out Metro passes today. That was something they were doing today. And then she mentioned that they'd had the May 29th, they're gonna have the 90th birthday party. If you've never been to that, it's really neat. I took my mom there probably about 10 years ago. And they really do a nice job for that. So that's coming up the 29th. And if you let them know that you're going to just come to watch, you can probably have lunch with them. Now, I went and we ate because my mom, yeah.
I'll go with her.
Oh, okay. Okay, it's really neat. And they give a certificate from the city, and then they have cards from IHOP. Something she mentioned, I think it was yesterday, is they need more gift cards. If any of us can come up with gift cards, because they give them away with their raffles and everything, and I said, well, I'd bring it up. So if any of you have any kind of raffle cards that we could donate, that would be great. I went to the volunteer luncheon. That was really nice. It was very nice, but I skipped out before lunch and went over to Porto's. Which some others have done that too, you know, but it was really neat. The volunteer luncheon was really good. You need to stop in because it's a gem there. And like you were talking about, so many people are in those classes. Let me tell you, they come in there, a lot of them. I took something, I don't know, several years ago, some kind of a yoga class or something. I didn't pass, so I'm not there anymore. But it's really great, and I think they really like to see us come. I really do, you know, because we're there to help them. I did go to Mike's funeral, and it was really something else. It was really something else. He was a friend for a long time, his mom and him, and so it was almost like a gathering afterwards. I mean, I don't think I left till 3:15. Everybody got together and talked, you know, so it was really neat. I think that's it. Oh, no, I went to the senior center, and they had this singer. Holy schmoly. I don't know if he was a tenor or what.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
The grandson of one of the participants.
That's it. He was fantastic, and there was lots of people there. It was really something. That's it.
Thank you.
Somebody from the YWCA reached out to me about a month ago. You guys know about the YWCA? Do you want to say a little bit about it? I just recently learned about it, so.
Well, in terms of just funding CDBG, there's two programs that YWCA.
Is it the YWCA or the YMCA that you're talking about?
YWCA.
Yeah. Oh, great. Okay. So, you want to say a little about it real quick?
No, go right ahead.
Okay, so somebody reached out to me. They've got a home and what they're housing. They've got they house people for 45 days, and it's men and women that are escaping domestic violence in that moment. And one of the things they said is often under underappreciated or overlooked is the youth that come with them. They're the only one in San Gabriel Valley that they told me locally that take mothers or fathers with teenagers, so 13-year-old kids, 14-year-old kids, 15-year-old kids. So we hosted them, the youth, they've got 5 youth right now. We hosted them at the office because the youth are kind of, you can imagine, kind of thrown. And so there's anything that we could do to normalize the youth life. They've got funding for the victims, but the youth don't really have much. And because it's a temporary stay of 45 days, there's not much the school district can do, and there's not much of things. So we got them some stuff, and they do well with gift cards and take them to a ball game, and I mean anything to do to normalize. So I was gonna ask if you were okay with somebody coming to speak for 5 or 10 minutes, just to say what they're doing, what some of their needs are. But even without that, just kind of keep in mind that there are people that are victims of that, and if anybody wants to help, you can reach out to me and I'll connect you with her. And then that was it.
What did the kids specifically need, do you know? Clothes or gift cards, I mean, what?
So what they provide for them is some weathered clothes and shoes. You can see as they came in the office, all of them were wearing the same pair of shoes. But what I felt their need was just anything that normalizes their perspective on life. So to be inspired by any sort of career decisions or any sort of schooling or any sort of future type site. So if you get them gift cards we got them gift cards to like Menchie's and food places like In-N-Out and Menchie's and things like that, or if you get them gift cards to the movies, the Edwards or anything like that, it kind of like helps normalize their transit position for 45 days. The funding that they get, what was explained to me, is they're not allowed to use that funding for anything off-site. So anything they want to do for the kids, the actual kids, to take them to the movies or take them to Baskin Robbins or anything like that, would have to be, any sort of private funding or.
Maybe the West Covina Women's Club could help out, because they do a lot of donating, and that would be a place, the president, okay, I mean, little clubs, like the one on First Vice we donate. So, if we would have a speaker come for like 5 minutes or something to say what's going on, maybe we could come up with something too.
Yeah, and if we could get in a conversation at some point, that would be great. And just kind of connect hands.
I tell you what, if they need any Spanish speaking to give them a motivation, I'd be more than glad to. If you need that, just call me.
I'm definitely going to tell the coordinator there that there's
be more than glad to help out on that.
Okay. Thanks.
Are they still local? Is it?
Covina.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're local.
I know when I had my business in Covina, there was a pretty good sized house that had been converted, but there's no clue as to what it was.
Yeah.
And they were actually battered wives and children. I don't think they were even meant at the time there, but it's the same idea.
Yeah.
It was right across the street from my business. But
Is this
nobody
through
knew
the
about it.
YMCA? Did you say this was?
YWCA.
Oh, YW? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the WINGS program, right?
Yeah, so it is. Their mission statement is about women, but they take victims, male and female, of domestic violence. Yeah.
We have an advocate from the PD side that works with them.
Yeah.
We fund that program.
Yeah. The target for me, that when they reached out to me, was the youth. The youth don't necessarily have anything that normalizes them for 45 days. I think the group is well funded. Thank you. But I think the youth, they just don't really know what to do, because from 8 to 5, what are they supposed to be doing?
Anything else? But now we can go on and anybody have anything that wanted to be agendized for next meeting? Okay. All right. We come to the end of the trail, so I'll entertain an adjournment. Oh, excuse me, wait one more thing. I gotta give credit to probably Deborah for writing up this upcoming events list here.
I know, right?
This is something. But it's
You don't want to read all that.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's everything between now and the next meeting.
Yeah, we're all booked up to July 9th. Just follow this one. That's great, though. It really is
Yeah.
a nice list. Any comments on that list? No, nothing? Okay.
Motion to adjourn?
Now I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Second it.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you very much.
Too bad.
I think we had a good day.
Betty, I'm sorry.
Is that?
I just want to let you guys all know I didn't announce it.